I've never met him. I've actually, I don't think that I've ever, because as we've mentioned, I don't watch the program, but I do go out of my way to watch certain things that people send me that they know I will like, such as revival matches, etc. And so I don't know that I've ever seen a Ryback match, to be quite honest with you. I've never met him, so I'm not knocking him from a personal standpoint or whatever, but he said, unless he was misquoted, and if somebody wants to write in and clarify this, he said some really stupid things. He's the one, didn't he say that all the guys on the roster should be paid the same thing because since the office tells you whether to win or lose, it's not your fault, you're not the champion and in the main event?
Correct.
Am I paraphrasing that, or is that pretty much what he said?
That's about right.
Okay, well, then that means that the Shakespearean actor who gets a bit part walk-on in a Schwarzenegger movie should get Arnold's money, right? Is that what that is? Because he's a great actor, but he ain't the star of the movie. He's a fucking bit part player.
Does that mean the referee should get the same amount of money too?
Well, now that's a gray area. I'm not sure because they don't tell the referees whether to win or lose. So it just depends. But, you know, maybe we can listen to Ryback's podcast and find out more about it. But lately, I just over the weekend, apparently it came out that he said he turned down a 3-year, $1.5 million contract because it wasn't about the money. It was about the way he was being utilized and treated. If they offered this fucking guy $500,000 a year for 3 years, I'd be surprised to begin with as a guarantee. But he said in this that it wasn't as much money. And we did a program on this a few weeks ago with, unfortunately, the late Scott Williams, where we talked about the independent contractor classification and et cetera, and mentioned that the guys have to pay their own expenses, which is bullshit for a company that size. And they, besides the fact they have no insurance, no benefits and all that stuff, they get a plane ticket, but they have to pay their own hotel, rental car, food on the road. And to be honest, like I said, for a company that size, that's bullshit. But here's another, Ryback said, well, after the taxes, because he said he pays 40% in taxes off the top. And if he does, his accountant is fucking an idiot and he ought to be fired. Because there's all kinds of ways that you can put money aside where you can defer taxes. And also, and I'm not going to sit here and be a financial advisor. You're the Jew. You ought to be doing that line of work. See, I can talk that way to you because we're friends.
Semite.
Yeah. Tell your story walking. But also, here's what Ryback said. He said he spends $150,000 a year on his road expenses. Now, let's just do some fucking math here, shall we? Because they only work 4 days a week. If you're booked full-time every week, all the time, you only work 4 days a week anymore. Nobody works 7 days a week anymore like we used to. So for 4 days a week, and that means you're flying back the next day, so you're on the road 4.5 to 5 days a week by the time that you get done with it. But that means, let's say he's on the road 5 days a week. $150,000 a year. That means he's spending $3,000 per week on travel expenses. That means that he's spending $600 a day. And he said he likes to travel by himself. I don't know, with some of the things this guy says, I'm not sure whether that's a decision he made or a decision the rest of the locker room made. Try to get the fuck away from this heat magnet. But $600 a day he's spending every day he's on the fucking road for a rental car, a hotel, and food. Explain to me how that's fucking possible. I like to stay in Hilton properties because I have a Hilton Honors card. You get points and you get benefits. And most Hampton Inns, Hilton Garden Inns, nice hotels. It's not like you're moving in to fucking stay somewhere for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. So you don't need to stay and to me, full service hotels like the really ritzy titsy fucking Hiltons and everything, by the time that you don't want to stay there because then you got to fucking tip the bellhop and you got to fucking possibly pay to park or whatever the fuck. So you stay at a nice place. That's $100, $20, $25 on top of that for tax. In the major markets, it's a little bit more. A rental car, especially if you go to Hertz, you get a gold card. If you don't get if you're traveling by yourself, why do you need a goddamn, Lincoln Continental or whatever? Rental cars are what these days, 40, 50, $60 a day tops. If you throw the insurance in there because you're not a good driver, there's a little bit of something. If you, where the fuck, I know I don't spend a lot of money on food on the road because I eat fucking Wendy's, right? But even if you eat, what is he eating at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse every fucking night? How does that add up that you can possibly spend $600 a day on average on the road, 5 days a week in, week out, month in, month out? Somebody is either full of bullshit here, or it's one of those deals where somebody whose name I will not mention used to try to turn fucking expense reports into the WWF, where they were fucking healing other people in on their breakfast. At, you know, is these $70 breakfasts at the Marriott or whatever the fuck. It don't add up. Is this guy just convinced that so the point is I was about to make, this guy's full of shit apparently on his figures, but since I've never seen him, I'm going to ask you. You've seen him wrestle, correct? You've seen him on TV?
Correct.
Is he any good? Should he be a top guy? Has he been majorly fucked raw with no lube by The Office, and he should be a big main event star and be in the main events of all the pay-per-views and be treated the way he seems to want to be treated? Or is he one of these people that thinks that he's a big time fucking star and really isn't, and is upset about that?
Well, I think when he left, I mean, he was upper mid card at best. And I'm not saying that's anything against him personally. I think they pushed him first and then they pulled it back. He got a reputation for injuring guys. You know, you could say a lot about CM Punk being a crybaby and maybe, making up some things, you know, allegedly, but I don't think anyone's disputed the fact that CM Punk got legitimately hurt from working with Ryback, and that was a major problem that he didn't want to work with him anymore because he was getting hurt. Look, Ryback had a look. That's really what his career was. His career wasn't that he was a great promo. His career wasn't that he was great in the ring. It was that all of a sudden this guy who had been in really good shape came back in the shape of a WWF wrestler from 1987.
Oh boy.
And that's really what his career was. He was the, you know, as CM Punk said, to quote CM Punk, he was the steroid guy. And that's really it. I mean, again, I think,
and I understand he looks something like Goldberg, and people started chanting, well, you know, there's a match there. We want to see Goldberg, you know, fight this guy. It looks like Goldberg.
Well, no, he doesn't look like Goldberg, but they tried.
Or has the same push, the same genre, same. He's a big jacked up guy that beats people quick.
Exactly. With a very unnatural physique, if I may say. As someone who has spent a lot of time working out in gyms and someone who has been around wrestling as well as bodybuilding at various points in my life, a very unnatural physique in my eyes. And that was really it. He was a physique guy. And at times he got over, and at other times the fans didn't give a shit. But I don't think that if he had signed another contract, there was really another window where he was going to get pushed to the top of the card, especially considering all of the guys that have come in since then and gotten pushes, like AJ Styles, which I think is a great thing because I think he's maybe the best singles wrestler in the business right now and has been for the last few years. And you have all these guys at NXT they're getting ready to bring up eventually. I think if anything, he would have slid down the cards, not up the cards.
So basically, he was okay until guys came along that could actually work, and then they're like, well, fuck, he's hurting all these fucking people, so why the fuck? And he's probably, if he's that outspoken publicly, he was probably hard to deal with behind the scenes as well. So I guess we should cry no tears for me, Argentina, or whatever that fucking is. But when a guy says everybody on the card should make the same amount of money because the office tells them whether to win or lose, that just reminds me of when that fucking idiot John Laurinaitis was signing lingerie models out of catalogs to be the girl wrestlers and looking for bodybuilders when you don't. And that's one thing, and I'll give it to him, that Triple H has done is he's gone out and he's signed guys who want to be wrestlers and who already are wrestlers or who have had some experience and understand what the wrestling business is about. And it is probably made some of these fucking guys who just don't get it and think they can get by because of their bodies and their push, and it's all show business and it doesn't require talent. It's made them unnecessary to some extent because they've actually got guys now that can work and know what the fuck's going on with the wrestling business. So maybe that's where his problem lay. I don't know the fella. Just says a lot of weird things. When you say everybody on the card ought to get paid the same, and you say you spend $150,000 a year on the road, if I was Mick Foley or Owen Hart and they got a high paying job, they were making several $100,000 a year. I guarantee you they would have spent about $14.72 a week on the fucking road. As a matter of fact, I think that may have been Owen at one time had a contest with Mick. And if somebody is around Mick, ask him who won it. But I think they had a contest to see who could spend the least on the road for some period of time. And I'm not sure who won, but I mean, it was down to like pennies that they were spending because they would get rides with fans and people would buy meals, and it would just, they were definitely planning for the future. So anyway, Ryback apparently didn't go to that fucking school.
Well, he was doing these promos for a little while about his favorite book, The Secret, where he would talk about how The Secret has changed his life and made him a better person and everything, which were really kind of odd just because here's this big, kick-ass wrestler doing this book about, doing this promo about this somewhat, this book about finding yourself. And then the other thing he did, which I did get a kick out of.
Wait a minute. What was The Secret?
I don't know what The Secret is. I've never read The Secret. The secret is you got to spend $20 to buy the book.
We don't know what The Secret is. Okay.
But the other thing he did I got a kick out of was when he left, when he made a decision not to renew based on the contract they were giving him, apparently. He sent them he on the internet wrote that he wishes the WWE the best in their future endeavors, which I did get a kick out of.
Well, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I've said CM Punk is my hero because he said basically, fuck you, I'm going home and there's nothing you can do about it. And I've got the wherewithal to do so. And I enjoy that when the boys can leave under their own terms, but it helps when one of the boys was actually a big fucking draw and was a talent and stuck it to him rather than, oh, well, anyway, another case of one of these guys they let in the fucking business that wasn't ready for it and didn't deserve it. I don't know.